Hi, I'm Kelly, and the reason I'm still alive today is because of my mother. After you hear my story too, you might think I don't deserve the life my mother gave me. Well, sometimes I think so too. It all began since I was a little child. I was born with kidney problems, and I always had to go to painful treatments just to stay alive. With time, life was getting harder, and I can't tell you how often I just wanted to give up. Despite my struggle, I wanted to enjoy the little things in life like any teenager, especially that I didn't know how much time I have left. I was determined to use every second. You see, my parents didn't understand that, especially my mother. I had to argue with her before I could do anything. She was always afraid something bad happens to me because of my malfunctioning kidneys. I wasn't allowed to go on long trips with friends, no camping, no parties, and no sleepovers. Basically, I was sick, and my parents made my life even more unbearable. With time, the relationship with my mother became very complicated. I would get 20 calls from her a day, asking me where I'm at, how I was feeling, and if I took my medicine. Most of these phone calls would end up with a heated argument. I felt like a prisoner that is being watched, and all I wanted was to be alone. I was 17 at the time, and having your mother on the phone all the time was pretty embarrassing, to say the least. You might think that my mother was trying to protect me, but the truth was, my mother only acted that way out of guilt. While I was waiting for a kidney donor, I always knew that there's a high chance that my own mom would be the perfect match. Even though many of the people I know got tested to see if they were qualified, my own mother never did. It was a touchy subject. I mean, you can't just ask people to give you their kidney, but I did try to bring up the subject multiple times when I was with her. However, my mother always brushed it off and never really gave me a clear answer. Because of that, my mom had no right to tell me what to do or act as if she cared. For all I knew, she just wanted to ease her feelings of guilt. Or that's what I thought. One day, there was a house party that I was dying to go to. I knew that my mother would never approve, and there was no way I could miss it. So I planned to go without telling her. After school, I told her I'm staying over at my friend's house to work on a project, and my plan was to stay there and go to the party after. And that's exactly what happened. I wasn't going to let my mother ruin my mood, so I sent her a text saying that my phone was about to die and that I'll be home late. Samantha and I went together, and the party was booming. There were music, dancing, and even alcohol. Most importantly, Jacob was there, the boy I had a crush on for ages. When I saw him, I went up to him to say hi. He looked so handsome. He welcomed me with a smile and gave me a hug. Jacob then asked if he could get me something to drink. Because of my condition, I wasn't allowed to drink alcohol, but I couldn't really say no to Jacob. He got me a bottle of beer, which I kinda just held in my hand and took really small sips. I was enjoying the party so much that I forgot about the time. I knew my mother would be upset, but at that point, I didn't really care. Standing there with Jacob at that moment was the most fun I had since a long time. I could tell that he liked me the way I did. We were flirting, and there was definitely an attraction between us. I knew Jacob wanted to kiss me, and I was waiting for it. We were close to one another, and with every second that passed, I felt him getting closer and closer as he was staring into my eyes. Eventually, I knew it was time. I closed my eyes, and I waited for the kiss, but it never came. I opened my eyes and saw Jacob looking in the other direction. He then turned to me and asked, "Is that your mother?" My jaw dropped. She was there, standing behind Jacob. When she came closer, my mother could see that I was holding a beer, which made her go crazy. She started screaming at me in front of all my friends. I could not believe what was happening. She said that she kept calling my friends until one of them told her I was here. She grabbed my hand and started walking towards the door. I had enough. I stopped, pulled my hand back, and told her she can go home alone. My mom seemed to understand that she was acting crazy, so she tried to trick me by asking me nicely to go home with her. But there was no way. I was not going to let her control me anymore, and she was ruining my chances I have with Jacob. I looked at her and said with a loud voice, "If you're so worried about my health, why don't you just donate a kidney to your dying daughter?" My mom froze. She wanted to say something but couldn't. I told her if she's not willing to help me, then she should leave me to enjoy whatever I have left of life at least. My mom looked as if she was going to cry, and she just responded with, "Okay." As I saw her leaving, I couldn't hold my tears. I knew that I had hurt her feelings. Jacob came up to me and asked me if I was okay. Well, I wasn't. I was feeling horrible. I asked him if he could bring me a drink, and this time I took a larger sip. I was starting to feel better, or so I thought. The next morning, I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. I looked around. Everything was blurry. I was in so much pain. I felt a hand holding mine, and I heard my mother's voice. "Everything will be okay," she said. "You need an urgent kidney transplant, and the doctors found a donor." I don't remember much from when on, but when I woke up after that, I was out of surgery with a new kidney. It took me a while before I understood what was going on. I was under the influence of drugs, and I kept falling asleep. I'm not sure how much time passed, but when I regained my consciousness, my dad told me that my mom was the kidney donor. I was a bit confused, but also thankful. This was the moment I have been waiting for my whole life, and all I wanted to do was to hug my mom and thank her. I asked my dad how she was doing, but my father was silent. He said that I needed to rest and everything will be okay. My heart started beating fast. I knew something was wrong with my mother. I asked my dad again how she was, and I could see that he was trying to hold back his tears. I immediately started to cry, and I kept repeating my question. Eventually, my father told me that my mother had passed away. I was quiet for a few moments. It can't be. How could she die? She was just with us. My father then explained that my mother knew she was an eligible donor from the beginning, but the problem was that the doctors told her that her body might not be strong enough, and she could risk her life. She then decided to wait for another donor, but when things seemed hopeless, she chose to give me her kidney without my knowledge. She was sure that if I knew it would risk her life, I wouldn't accept it. It was her choice, my father said. She couldn't see you suffer like that any longer. I wasn't ready to hear that answer. I couldn't believe how selfish I was. I wished at that moment to go back and undo everything. I didn't want my mother's kidney. I wanted my mother. Years passed. Until this day, the guilt I feel is unbearable. If you're watching this, please make sure you make your mother feel appreciated as long as you have the chance to do so.